Here, make sure everything's going like it should. I'm gonna have to step away here for a moment because the coffee's brewing. We'll see if we have some folks coming on. We got a storm coming. Kind of hard to tell exactly what's going to happen, but there is a storm brewing. Oh, I need my super readers. Let me go grab that. I'm going to grab my coffee. Here's the super readers. Okay, and the obligatory ice. So this is where we left off yesterday, working on this, and actually, yeah, and this is where we're going to pick up off of. And let's move this thing off to the side. And we talked about we're doing some dry brushing on this. So let's go ahead and do that. And the floor on the inside, we're going to leave this as a concrete floor on the inside of this warehouse, what have you. So, but I figured I'd get on here sooner rather than later because there is a storm coming. I don't know if there's going to be lightning involved, and I don't want to film while there's lightning. I don't want my equipment to have to get replaced. Okay, so we're going to take, and I think I'm just going to do it. Well, I could probably do it here. We could wipe it off on this napkin. Let's see who has no big plans today and comes on Friday night. I don't know why they made such a big deal out of going out on Friday night. It's the last night I want to go out on because I'm freaking tired. Come on. Yeah, there's nothing there. We've got a lot of stuff we can do this weekend. Whether I choose to do it is a different matter altogether, but I should have done this step that I'm about to do before I put these little lines in, but whatever. We'll put them back where they go. It's not that big of a deal. Just some color differentiation here. Yeah, we haven't even done the cracks yet, so we're okay. And we'll be back on tomorrow morning as planned. And Sunday also. Sunday morning. for sure. In case you guys were wondering, I'm not planning on going out of town this weekend. That's weird. Huh. I don't really film in... Oh, I don't really film in this mode. What the hell did I just do? I don't really film in this mode, so... I got a notification that I'm not used to seeing. And we're going to do the same thing on the inside of this. Although this really puts the dry and dry brushing, because this is pretty darn dry. It's just one big open floor. I don't know if I came on here too early. It's not even 6 o'clock here. I figured, hey, you guys across the pond, you know, I need to catch you guys while you're awake. Ah, shit. Gotta catch you blokes while you're awake. I normally would do this before I put these lines in, but honestly it doesn't make much of a difference. I'm going to go over them anyways. I just kind of put them in their place where they go. Well, I'm just going to get cranked up on coffee. We'll see if anybody's here. It just helps, you know, the more people are online, the more discussions that we have, the more likely I'm going to stay on here and not get bored. Yesterday I was on for like 3 hours in the afternoon, in the evening, which is a long time. It's a long time on a work night. But I started relatively early, and you guys cooperated. Probably because I think some of you guys wanted to go on the previous night. The previous night I got bent by YouTube or the internet or both. So we're just going to do these filmings with the camera, with the phone. through the mobile connection, which is a lot more reliable. However, can only get 720 maximum. All right, so let's take a look at this and see what this looks like. Let's take these Lansers off here. We won't have an accident. Okay, I think I may end up putting some more stains or something in there, but for now, that'll work. Now, this is this area back here that is not visible because it's really underneath this building. So I'm going to go ahead and paint those areas black, which is just this area around here. And then the walls, of course, we're going to do brick color. Just because that's kind of what we started doing. If the buildings had a different finish, I would use a different color. You know what? There's no point in mixing two colors in here. Let's just do the brick red for this too. And because it's brick here as well. Let's just see how that goes. Sometimes it's better not to have a really defined plan. Don't compromise your flexibility. Yeah, that's probably pretty good. Let's rinse that. Well, we survived the week. In some ways, this week went really slow, and in some ways, it went fast. Hey, Mr. Pugwash, looks like a big camp for DBA Tony. Well, I'm not DBA Tony anymore. Yes, this would be a very big camp. I don't know who's the Grand Poobah of DBA anymore. I honestly don't know. But it's not like it took off just because I wasn't involved in it. It's like, oh, Tony's not involved in it anymore? Okay, good. Now we can get back to playing it. There's no way I could keep doing the DBA stuff and this. And by the way, it doesn't show you online. I mean, it doesn't show there's anybody online. Did you just come in, throw a grenade, leave? That's okay. Welcome back, man. Yeah, sometimes this YouTube acts weird, you know? People won't even know that I'm on. I'm taking it you have pugs. Otherwise, why would you pick that for a name? No Historicon. Absolutely not. No. No, I was leaning towards not going, and then I found out that the rooms, I found out already too late, the same day the rooms went on live, and I couldn't get a room anymore. Because the rooms go in like 5 minutes. Like the room block for Historicon's gone in 5 minutes. And there was too many trips I was going to take during the summer with the family, which is unusual. We normally don't vacation in the summertime, but, you know, my daughter's now in college, so that's something to consider. We can't just pull her out of school like we used to. So we ended up not only going on one vacation in the summertime, we went two and almost back to back. Just a week in between them. And it's just like, It's just too much stuff to think about. So, and honestly, my personal interest in going back to Historicon is pretty low. Mitch might want to disagree with me, but he can go. But it's just I it's a bad idea to go there just to shop. That's not a good value. And yeah, I don't know. It's a lot of it's not a cost issue. It's actually pretty cheap. Has Mitch gone? Yeah, he's gone. He's gone every year that. See, what was the first year he went with me? I want to say 13 or 14, and he went every year until the COVID debacle when they canceled it, and then we came back in 21 and 22. I didn't go last year, and I didn't go this year. And it kind of, I'll be honest with you, when they canceled that the Historicon due to COVID, I and I like missed one because like when I heard about it, it was in 2005, and I'm like, hell, let's go play DBA. I never even heard of Historicon before, and I went every year. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and the COVID thing, they didn't have it, and it just kind of like broke my momentum. And I'm like, well, if I missed one, well, I missed one. And now that I've missed it, it's like, it's not that big of a deal, you know? You see Richard Clark from Two Fat Lardies as well as Jason Salke, Rifleman Harris from Sharp. Yep. Pretty low numbers of speakers. Usually they have like 10 or 12. They just have 2. Like, that's pretty low. The one I would have liked to see is Lindy Bay. She was there one year. But the problem is when I was doing DVA, I couldn't see them because it's like we have an event and every single thing, there's like no time to do anything. So, well, it says that only one of you guys is on here. You noticed on Twitter. Somebody that uses Twitter. I tried using it. And the problem with Twitter is I get a lot of feeds of things I'm not even interested in. And there's no way to turn it off. Like I was getting politics stuff. And I don't give a shit about politics at all. Yeah, so I didn't really find much of a value in it. I was annoyed that the War Games Soldiers and Strategy that came out yesterday, I can't get it for who knows how long because I'm not a subscriber. I mean, I want to buy the PDF episode, the magazine. So hopefully it sucks for you for you guys to subscribe to it. I don't know. It's just, they have their reasons for doing things the way they want to do them. I just don't want to commit to have to buy every episode because there's some articles that just don't interest me. Especially now that we're very World War II centric, and there's lots of stuff in World War II that doesn't interest me. And I don't mean the Pacific, I just mean like scales and stuff, So yeah. So anyways, we talked about movies yesterday and movies to watch, and I had some coffee, and about 9 o'clock, I signed off 9 o'clock here, or just before 9 o'clock. So I'm like, I start searching around for stuff, and I actually found a movie that I wanted to see that it just kind of piqued my interest, and I talked about it yesterday. Um, been watching some of the games on YouTube on Historicon. Yeah. I honestly haven't really looked. There's so many things on YouTube to freaking distract you and go into different things. But anyhow, so I had talked about a movie that I wanted to see that scarred me as a youth, and that was Caligula. I found it. I found it on some illegal site. I didn't download it or anything. I'm like, let me watch it for free or whatever. So I watched the first half of it, last night, and then the second half of it, and it was surprised me how little of it I remembered. And I guess I watched the uncut version, which makes sense because there's not a, I don't think anybody was circumcised in that. So yeah, it was a porn film. Well, they made different versions of it. They made at least like three versions that were made for the U.S. I saw it at a party when I was somewhere between 19 to 22 for the first time, and I'm like, this is just really weird, with other people too. And I'm like, um, it might have been while I'm watching it, I'm like, this is a shame I can't watch this live with you guys because I had some pretty interesting color commentary. But, some parts of it was really pornographic and other parts of it weren't. Um, the violence was stupid. It was the special effects for the violence was ridiculously bad. Um, and I'm watching this, and because ever since I watched the movie, way back when, this would have been early 90s, and people said, what's the worst Roman emperor? Without a doubt, I would say Caligula. And part of it is, I know that there's a lot of fiction in that movie, but part of it's tempered by my experience of having seen that, and I know, I think a lot of this stuff is way over the top, way, way over the top. I think a lot of this stuff that's in Rome, the Rome series, is way over the top. But not seen any 20 millimeter games yet. Not a lot of 20 millimeter being sold in the dealer hall from what I've seen. In the my experience at Historicon, the only people that sell 20 millimeter is this one company called Army Group Center Wargaming. They have a bunch of like soft plastic figures and Plastic Soldier Company and stuff like that. Them and FAA did come as a dealer the last 2 years, but I hate FAA. Sorry, I don't like their styling. That's it. And I couldn't even find something that was even somebody that was pawning stuff off in the flea market, or what do you guys call it across the pond? The bring and buy, or the something like that. No, 20 millimeters doesn't exist over here. People just aren't interested in it. It's either 15s with Flames of War, or they're 28 millimeter folks. And I've never played a 28 millimeter game. Bill's War Games World. All right, we're going to look that up. My homework assignment here. Bill's War Game World. Yeah, so when somebody would say, what's the worst Roman emperor, I would automatically, without even hesitating. And by the way, it shows that none of you guys are online. So if there's more of you guys online, I don't know. But anyhow, I would say Caligula, tempered by my experience that I had watching that, way back when. So I know a lot of this stuff is exaggerated in there. And, so I was just kind of like curious to see, first of all, did I find it as graphic as I remember it being, and violent, and what kind of an impression it had of you. And now, Caligula, the representation of him in there does, and I'm going to use this loosely, it does the way he's represented is a lot like that movie, The Devil's Double, that I've talked about it, and which is the crazy son for Saddam Hussein. It's about the body double for him, and it's basically you got a guy who's depraved at best and wicked, etc. On up. And one of the problems that you have is if you've got a character that is that evil or whatever, say you got somebody like Hitler. Okay, Hitler's not a nice guy, right? You wouldn't want him as a neighbor. But if you're one of on Hitler's evil, if you're one of the guys in Hitler's evil circle, and you do exactly what he wants you to do, he shouldn't kill you, right? I mean, that's how it should work. And when you're talking about an individual like the way Caligula is represented in this movie, or Uday Hussein in that other movie, basically you could do exactly what he wants you to do, and he's still going to kill you. It's just like a roll of the dice. It's almost like you're playing with a live grenade, and that's really troubling. That's really, really troubling. That you could, you can't even kiss the ass of somebody and do a good job. They could come and just off you. So everybody is nobody's safe, kind of thing, and I find that really troubling. Your favorite video movie seller was there. He's okay. He doesn't bother me. Other than that one year where somebody went and did a video about how he was offended that all that stuff on there, like, grow a backbone. The guy just got upset because he doesn't know who his fucking dad is. These guys that are, these guys that are like, this offends me. Like, look, there's stuff that offends everybody, and you just have to, understand that, not everybody's going to agree with you. He didn't like that there was right-wing type shirts on there. I said, okay, but if there was a bunch of pro-commie shit, this person wouldn't have a problem with it. So it goes both ways. So I don't buy any of that controversial shit, anyways. I really don't buy any of his movies. Mitch has bought some of his movies, but I'm not a movie watcher, especially when I can watch them for free. There's been a move from bringing by stalls, the flea market concept, the past few years, more flexibility for pricing, and fewer volunteers needed to run it. Yeah, so if you got some guy that's a leader that is a loose cannon, so to speak, you can't even do exactly what his bidding is, and he'll off you. That's a really bad character, And that was prevalent in that movie yesterday. And the best quality about him is he slept with his sister. That way he didn't, that way he didn't have to. Nobody else had to get screwed outside his family. But I don't know. It was fairly pornographic. Honestly, that part didn't bother me. There's the storm. That part didn't bother me because I knew what was happening, and I'm a big boy. It's not going to change how I think about things. So I've seen more graphic things. I'm just going to leave it at that. But that's not what I was there for. I was just kind of curious to see, exactly what it was. The special effects were just really poor. There's this one scene where they kill his illegitimate daughter or whatever, and it's like, they just use ragu or whatever with a dummy, or definitely didn't spend the money on that. Let's put it that way. Caligula was one of many British soft porn films from the 70s that made it in the mainstream. Well, the version I watched is definitely more than soft, but there's a lot more graphic things that are able to be watched relatively easy. And it pointed his horse as a console. Is he worse than Nero? Is he worse than who's the guy that came after Marcus Aurelius? I don't know. I think that if you're going to kill people, obviously this is just a movie portrayal, but if you're going to kill people on a whim, that's a pretty damning character flaw. Because nobody's safe. I just do what he tells you. It's like if you work for your boss and it's like, hey, I want you to do this or I'm going to fire you, and you do it and he fires you anyways. Well, that's a dick move. Except here he's killing people, not just firing folks. Yeah, I knew there was a horse thing in there. I was afraid I was actually going to see the horse do some stuff. Fortunately, I didn't have to see that. I guess there's other films for that. Not that I want to see any of that stuff, but anyhow, what's funny is, you know what I remember? The music. I remember the music from it. I'm like, maybe it uses like real class. There's one classical tune that's throughout that movie, and I'm like, that's really familiar. Like I watched it last week or something, and I hadn't seen that in 40 years, almost 40 years, 35 years, something like that. Caligula was born Julius Caesar, according to Wikipedia. What is it? Like Caesar Augustus Germanicus something or another. I think I was watching a history program at some point, and they found, I think it was Caligula, they found some boat, like a flat bottom party boat, on some lake in Italy that was sunk, and it was, his debauchery boat or something like that, attributable to him. And it was something big, and his Epstein boat. The original Epstein. Now, a lot of that stuff's over the top. I just don't believe that there's rooms with, 400 people going at it. That's just, I mean, maybe there was, but I wouldn't be one of those 400. I'll tell you what. I'm not a performance artist. I'm not a performance artist. I think whatever you do, whatever the hell you want one on one. You start adding a crowd factor, it starts getting super weird. Oh yeah, and no swapping. That's weird too. Ever since I heard about so we got this retirement community just south of here called the Villages. So this is basically this town that they built out of nothing. Okay, it was basically between Ocala and Orlando, um, away from I-75. This town just kind of blossomed, and it's basically like a golf cart community. Everybody has golf carts and they drive a golf cart here, and it's all Yankee money. It's people that are retired up north and they come here, and it's overpriced homes, and it's just a big suburbia. And the word on the street is it's an STD capital of Florida, and the reason why is these old people get horny and they swap wives, and yes, hey, I don't make this shit up. I wish I did, but yeah, I can't look at that place the same anymore. You know, interesting topic of discussions today. It's what happens when you're watching, you know, stuff like that. So I got a couple. The other two movies I'll try to watch them this weekend. The Idiocracy. I want to see that. I'm sure I could probably find a place to. Mr. Ben. Well, you just got here when we stopped talking about porn. Yeah, I wanted to watch the whole thing last night, but I fell asleep. It just got too late. And I got to work in the morning. I can't stay up till like freaking midnight. But the special effects were just abysmally poor. You're watching the first half of Lawrence of Arabia, then came up to the PC, and what did I walk into? Well, we were walking about Peter. We were talking about a movie that Peter O'Toole was in. I watched Caligula last night. I found it for free, and we talked about it yesterday. I don't know whether you were here in that part where we talked about it, but we talked about it yesterday, and I'm like, there were some things that were pretty scarring when I saw it. I don't know about scarring, but I was like, huh? And I handled it a little bit. I've seen much more graphic, but they did have stuff with like disfigured people. They have people with like hands on top of another hand. I mean, come on, what kind of a bullshit B movie was C movie was that? That a person with like multiple faces, like basically showing that it was like a freak show. Built like a suburb of Aberdeen that has a reputation for parties featuring goldfish bowls and car house keys. Yeah, so apparently that's where I found out about the whole pineapples. You know what a pineapple means? I'm like, yeah, it means welcome, right? Like aloha. No, but there's a thing with it. If it's upside down, there's swingers. I'm like, what do these people come? Why you gotta fuck with fruits, man? Why do people have to ruin fruits? That's just weird. Dozed off before you brought that up. Yeah. Yeah, I saw Lawrence Arabia's on there, and I think I'm going to watch that with the daughter. I'd seen it in a long time. I remember the last time I saw it, I was really impressed by the cinematography. But Peter O'Toole's one of those heavily drinking actors, isn't he? I can see him and Richard Harris just, drinking the bar under. Okay, so I think this is how this is going to sit on here. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a. I'm going to go ahead and do the cracks before I go in and add the dark wash. It's like the Instagram models. When they post a picture in Dubai, it just means they were there to make men of the sheik's sons. Yeah. That's going to be one of those places I never plan on going to. Sorry, I'm not going to the Middle East. And I'm certainly not taking my girls there. Girls don't go anywhere that they don't get treated like full people. That's My mother-in-law ended up going to. They did a cruise around the Mediterranean, and she says, "Well, I got to go buy it." She was like, She wanted me to help her order stuff. She was visiting up for like the holidays or something like that, and she wanted us to look for a veil or something like that. I'm like, "What the hell you need a veil for?" Or to go visit a holy site. I'm like, "Not any holy site I'd want to go to." I guess she had to wear something to go into Hagia Sophia. I'm like, "We're not going in there then." That's just. Not a fan of that shit. Not a fan of that shit. And really, all it would take is just like, okay, you could just dress normally. Don't wear freaking shorts in the church. Okay, I got it. You don't want to wear, disrespect like that, but put a face veil on? No. No, not doing that shit. Sorry. Or you'll go to the water park here. The water park here in Florida, there's been a group of those folks, and the men, they're wearing basically underwear with weenie benders, and the women are literally covered head to toe, even with, I think they got sneakers on too. And they just have like full pants and I'm like, you don't have to do that in this country. We won't kill you here. I can see if you got to do that stuff in order to survive, but, not a fan of that stuff. Usually involving brown stuff and live fish, from what I've heard. What are we talking about? Brown stuff. What's a weenie bender? Them European underwear swimming trunks. So basically, they're wearing swimming trunks that are extremely revealing, and the women can't wear anything revealing at all. Like almost to the point where you can't even tell that it's a woman. It's just extremes. I'm not into that extreme stuff. Speedos, yeah, yeah, real little speedos. Whitney Bender. Come on, man. You know what that is. No, not going to Historicon, and don't miss it. And we had a good time every single time. Went. It just you can't do everything. So after this one's done, we've got how many more to do? I think three, two or three. Frenchmen always have to pray the S doesn't fall off. Pedos. Yeah, it's not funny. Why French? Are all pedos French? I don't have anything. I don't have anything against the French. At least they know how to drive on the correct side of the street. Yeah, I got this one and two more. Oh man. Still have yet to find anybody that liked the Napoleon Woman. Napoleon Woman? The Napoleon movie. I didn't like the Napoleon Woman either. She didn't do anything for me. France, you have to wear Speedo type trunks by law. Do you? Well, it's better to wear them than not wear them. Because then you could end up like that French dude on that beach in Saint Martin. He was eating tomatoes, not wearing any clothes. Like that's, if you're not wearing any clothes, there's only one thing you should be eating. I'm going to leave that right there. I'm leaving that right there. That's it. You know what I mean. I don't have to elaborate. It's not eating tomatoes. And he did have an article of clothing. It was a hat. It was my daughter was little. She was like 7 or 8 years old. I tell you, it's not comfortable to not wear underwear. Leave it at that. Pudgy smugglers. For hygiene reasons, if I remember correctly. In France, budgie smugglers. Yeah. Plum smugglers. Yeah. I know we get hung up on nudity because we're Americans. Honestly, I'm going to tell you one thing that I don't think is a big deal. Um, if you had topless beaches, it's not a big deal. It's not a big, it's not. We're hung up on that in this country. What we're really hung up on is freaking alcohol, and not we. I mean Americans. And that's just stupid. I mean, it's bad to be an alcoholic, but man, there's nothing wrong with drinking. I become a better person. Why are you an asshole all the time? 'Cause they don't let me drink. Oh, okay. Well, as a lad, we got French movies on the telly, which were great, but they always had swimming scenes. Yeah, with dudes, right? You didn't mind the girls. There's speaking of French girls, I was reading something about the last Bond movie and the girl that's in that's French. And I tell you what, we are super hung up on teeth in this country. We are. We really really are. It's like the first thing I notice, and like that French girl has like a gap in her teeth. I think that one of the things is that um, I think it's like a sign of beauty or something like that. Like, yeah, that doesn't work in this country. We're hung up on like perfect teeth. Um, Sorry, I guess I'm American. Well, I'm perfect teeth and guns. Not necessarily in that order. And like cleanliness in our markets. Like we can't go to a grocery store and there can be like pieces of meat hanging up. It just we can't deal with that. We can't deal with that shit. And you guys can't deal with going to a gun show where there's just like firearms for miles. Just they're all unloaded. You know, um, for miles. Yeah, but we can't deal with beef and shit hanging from the ceiling. That old Persian princess with the unibrow and the mustache. The height of beauty in old Tehran. There's some beautiful Persian women. Well, there's pretty women everywhere. There's pretty women everywhere. Yeah, I know what you're talking about with that unibrow. I thought she was Greek though. I didn't know she was Persian. I think I'm actually going to have to use the black. I want a little bit more defined on that. Let's try that. Let's try that and a little bit more definition. Non-Americans probably would be surprised by the live lobsters at the supermarket, unless that's just a Connecticut thing. Um, they're certainly more prevalent than up there. It's kind of cruel if you think about it. I am a racist when it comes to animals. There's some animals that I care more about than others. Sorry, they're cuter. Um, Lobsters, I don't necessarily think they're kind of lobsters are kind of roach-like. But to be honest with you, I personally think I prefer shrimp to lobster. I think it's a lot more versatile, and I've had some lobster that's been excellent. But generally, shrimp is a lot easier to get right. But I make sure it doesn't come from, you know, some place. Well, we don't really buy it. Like, it needs to come from Florida. I mean, we're surrounded by water in three quarters. The problem is we got regulations here, not just, hey, you can get all the shrimp that you want, but it comes from, it comes from this bay where they throw out, garbage and, straws and shit like that. And, yeah, I guess that is kind of cruel, just taking an animal. But, you know, I don't cook, but if I had to, like, I love ham, but I'm not raising a pig and gutting it. That's just wrong. They're too cute. It depends on the supermarket. You could go to most supermarkets here, and you're not going to see uh, lobster in a tank. Um, yeah, I could see being a vegetarian, not a vegan. I don't care if they get molested. I don't care if the cows get molested. Sorry, I'm not giving up my cheese. Hey, why can't you show a cow a good time? Come on, man. What's wrong with cheese? Yeah, but the lobster thing's not really that. Most people aren't buying lobster. Just like most people aren't buying steak and eating steak every week. We're not eating beans and toast, okay? But we're not eating steak either. Connecticut. What do you got people in Connecticut? You got family up there? You're like Anglo American, right? Why not American Anglo? Hi. Well, my mother's family was from there, spent many summers there. She got kicked out of Europe and then just like, well, we're kicking her back. That's what I say about the Pilgrims. The Pilgrims are no fun at parties, so they got kicked out of Europe. This what? No. Okay. And the shadow is killing me. See, what if I kill this? Is it better? No. Well, all I know is England must be really old for New England to look new, because New England looks old to me. I wasn't a fan of New England when I saved my wife from there, my future wife from there. But when I went there recently, I didn't mind it. But it is very gray all the time in the wintertime. I'm not used to that. That's kind of brings me down. I'm used to the Sunshine State, damn it. And there's some redneck type people up there, but they're more like pirate slash fisherman type folks. Saw on a post somewhere. Every country has a South. Yeah, well, every country has some form of redneck type people. Even the states up north. I think you said your wife was from Connecticut. Well, she's not from Connecticut. She's actually born in Miami. She ended up moving up there after college and spent like 4 years up there. And I brought her back down. What the hell's a Cuban doing in freaking Connecticut? Everybody thought she was Italian, but actually, I've been Italian people. I look more Italian than Italian people. I look see some Italian people like you don't look very Italian to me. I think you say Abitz. Press her by saying you think Abitz is the best type of pizza when washed down with Foxen Park birch beer. I don't think that she knows what the hell that's all about. The melonheads in the Connecticut backwoods are a strange breed. Yeah. Yeah, there's backwood people everywhere. Even in Europe. My mom's actually in Europe right now. She went on a trip with some folks that she knew from Mexico, and she flew to Mexico, and she's going all over. She's doing the Eastern European tour, so she's doing like Dracula stuff and uh, what else? Dracula and Budapest, Sofia, Belgrade, all that kind of stuff. I told her, look out for them gypsies. It's going to all those countries that were violated by the Turks. A lot of people in that part of the world are real superstitious, like extremely so. So you could like bring like a little vial and say this is, the tears of a saint or something like that, and people freak out or something like that. The farmer near me has an Iron Age fort on his grounds, which he let companies dump toxic waste into in exchange for them dropping off prostitutes for him. Oh, he doesn't even get to pick his own prostitutes? Well, I ain't paying for them. If somebody else is going to pick the prostitutes for me, I'm not paying for them. They're going to be free. He set fire to the waste once, and the cops almost evacuated the nearby town. I'm not a save the earth person, but there's got to be something better than a dump. We got to do something better than just dumping stuff in a place. It's stupid. It's a waste of property. Uh, you go and there's like hills. They have them in Florida, and they're like 20 stories tall. It seems like they're 20 stories tall. Maybe they're only 10 stories tall. The size of a freaking pyramid. Like, come on, man. You got to do something better than that. Like, first of all, there's way too much packaging and stuff that we buy. There's way too much packaging. I just bought this. Do I still have it here? Super glue. And it came in like all this extra like paper. Like, why? It's just so damn wasteful. You put it in the recycling bin. Who knows if they really recycle it or not? They just like, whatever. Throw that in a different pile. That goes to a different landfill. It's just dumb. Like Go find the nearest volcano and pour that shit into the freaking magma. You know, let it burn up or whatever. I don't know. There's got to be something better than that. Toxic waste. You know what movie I want to see? I should write that one down. I haven't seen it in forever, and I remember it was extreme. It's the most extremely violent movie I ever saw at the time that I saw it. RoboCop. I remember when I saw RoboCop for the first time, that was an extremely violent movie. And I watch it now, I'll be like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. Used to fill in the old mines and sinkholes that show up. Nukem High, that's a movie. Toxic Avenger. You know, I was thinking about that. I've never seen the Toxic Avenger ever. Um, you don't. Toxic waste is something that you just don't talk about. I mean, maybe if I was from New Jersey, but there's, the environment's pretty good in Florida. Thank goodness. I mean, because a lot of it, relies on tourism, and you don't want a trash heap. Nobody's going to come visit your beaches if they're like littered with straws and beer cans, which there's still people that freaking do that, and they need to be, offed. There's no reason to you take your cups and then bring them back with you. What you're able to bring them there with liquids. When they're empty, they're empty. They should be able to bring them back. There's no excuse for making the world ugly. Absolutely no reason. We went to the 4th of July thing, a fireworks show at our local place here in town. There was this big field. It's actually a really nice. We got a band show and everything, and they had a band out there, and people were just sitting on the lawn. It was time to leave. People just left like freaking Pepsi cans and stuff, and there's the garbage right there. Like where's the hidden camera? Go out and beat those people. Community service. Clean this whole damn thing up. Like it's ridiculous. No, I've never seen Toxic Avenger, Kentucky Fried Movie, or any of those C movies from the 1980s or 70s or whatever the hell they are. Um, Heard of them, but yeah, I remember when I saw RoboCop for the first time. It was an extremely violent movie. For the time. Now I'd be like, that's just another day in paradise. You get desensitized to that kind of stuff. That don't look bad. Now we're gonna add some details to this stepping stone entrance here. It's gonna get a brown wash over that, but to have a little something. I'm actually gonna bring this line down the side. That looks a little better. Maybe I should do the same thing on the entranceway of this. Let's do that. Let's just see what that looks like. Have you seen the RoboCop parody where he saves the girl from the thugs? I have not. I have not seen the RoboCop parody. I've seen it. I only saw the movie one time, and I probably saw it. I didn't see it in the movie theater because it came out in '87. I couldn't watch an R-rated movie in '87. It would have been not until '88. So I probably saw it around 90, 91, something like that. Um, Have you seen the speaking of parody movie, although this isn't a parody movie, have you seen the independent um, part of The Punisher? There was this called Dirty Laundry. It's pretty good. It's like 10 minutes long or something like that, and it's the original Punisher. It's Thomas Jane, or the guy that looks like the guy that looks similar to the guy that's in Highlander. What's that guy's name? Lambert. Oh, I'm sorry, Lambert. Monsieur Lambert. Yeah, it's actually pretty good. You can find it on YouTube. It's like 10 minutes long. Tried the new Star Wars series the other night, but it seemed a little daft and managed about 15 minutes. Oh, you're talking about the one with the lesbian children? I'm sorry, the children weren't lesbians. They were just, you didn't need any men in it. You know, yeah, I've given up on watching Marvel stuff and the Star Wars stuff. It's just, it's too weird. It's just too weird. Yeah, it's on YouTube. Yeah, it's pretty good. I liked him as the Punisher. That was the first rated R movie my daughter saw. We went to SeaWorld or whatever, and I'm like, all right, she was 15 or something like that. And I'm like, now you're watching this rated R. Because I don't remember there having any, like, sex and stuff in it. And violence, look, you're an asshole, and you deserve to die. So, violence is coming for you. You know? Mr. Scott, welcome. Yeah, I don't have a problem with violence if, you're using it to fight evil. All right, so we're going to do this funny little entrance thing as well over here. You got to be violent. You can't be like that guy in Saving Private Ryan that just pussies out on the freaking stairway with his Garand. He lets a couple. Was it just one guy? I think he let two guys killed just because he didn't step up to the plate. I get being a pacifist, man, but if your back's up against the wall, you can't mention that guy to my daughter either. She'll be like, she's ready to like, if she sees that actress, no, it's just a role. She'd probably slap him, letting his buddies die just because got slapped by a little girl. I get being scared and not wanting to freaking die, but like, I'm going to kill somebody before they kill me. Are they 3D printed buildings or handmade? So I didn't make them. They're actually resin. These are, I don't know how old the original mold is, but they all came in this color, this buff, and by a company called Hovels. They've been around forever. The original one that I bought almost 30 years ago, I finished a couple months ago. This one right here. And I was so happy with how it turned out that I'm like, let me see if Noble Knight has any more. And they had them on sale because it's a scale that nobody really in the United States uses. So the problem with these is that they're extremely brittle. So if this falls, as a matter of fact, when I got the other buildings, this is one of the ones I got. Some of them came broken. I was able to fix them. It wasn't a big deal. It was just, you know, and they're imperfect looking. I don't know if you can tell this, but let me grab this so it doesn't fall off. If you look at this wall, see if I can get that. It has a bulge in it. There you go. You can see it. See how it bulges out? But yeah, 20 mil. Yeah, you can see it here. They're imperfect, but they're like damaged, so it works. I was actually really concerned about this part. Like, man, how am I going to make it look like it's? I think it turned out really well. I'm really happy with it. So, and then we've got, of course, a horde of bricks that we're going to put in different places as scatter terrain. So, and here's another batch that I put the watered down stuff on top of. And that ended up working the best. It's just watered down craft paint. Just give them a wash, and then they turn out pretty flat. Yeah, one of them that I did yesterday. Well, all the buildings are done. I got to put these bases because they don't come with any bottoms. Actually, is leaning forward to a degree. You can see this. It's like leaning, and like this corner. One of you guys mentioned it when I was painting it. Is there something wrong with the camera? No, there's something wrong with the corner. Look at that, like whoop. That's what happens when you don't have building inspectors. You get away with, all kinds of stuff. So I do have a couple of 3D printed buildings, but we're going to work our way towards that. Roads look good on Facebook. Yeah, I have a vision, and sometimes things turn out exactly how I'd have them envisioned, and it was like I was really happy with that. My goal is to have a battlefield that looks just like those all you Brits have in your wargaming magazines. I don't know. Maybe that's just in wargaming magazines. It isn't people in Britain. Like, are there a lot of people in Britain that are playing with ugly looking games that use felt? They certainly have them here in the United States, but those wargaming magazine stuff, that just makes you like salivate, you know? And if you guys don't want me to spend this much time on doing terrain, well, you shouldn't have this stuff look that good on the wargaming magazines, because I'm jealous. Every time I see something that I like better than the stuff I've done, I'm like, no, F you. We're kicking it up to 13, you know? So it's just a matter of patience. Well, hopefully, in the next 5 years, we'll be able to play this. All this is just for this one scenario, and then we're going to build everything from that. And it's funny because it's all vehicles. But we'll get there. We'll get there or we won't. So. You found any people up in Ohio to game with? You fall right back into place with that? I would suspect there's people that you knew from way back when. Scott used to be down here. You guys know Scott. He's in some of the DVA videos. What was the thing that you would do? Forts, right? Forts and cities and rivers and yeah. I don't know if they're playing regularly or whatever. I don't know. Let's see how this looks here. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. And of course, we need to add little cracks and stuff to it. Won't do this here. Let's put a harder edge on this. River King, hooked up with your old crew. Are you still looking to do a narrative skirmish? Absolutely. I'm going to run one side. I think it just makes sense, especially if people learning the game. So, narrative skirmish, yeah. I'm not going to spend this kind of detail making a game, and it's like all vague and shit. Like, nah. The River King, the River Dancer. The River Dancer. All right. Well, let's open this back up again. All right. It's easier to do this with this already in place. I like putting cracks where there definitely was some damage done to it. This is pretty much damage free, other than the one side that's missing. And I don't know what all is supposed to be over on this side, but it doesn't look like any of this suffered really any damage per se. So we're just going to say, there's a little crack that just appeared. Like so. And I wish I didn't have to do that, but if you don't do it, it looks like something's missing. You can't have all this like destroyed and then like have a sidewalk that's just was poured yesterday. Yeah, there's a happy little crack running right here. Yeah, I'm still trying to catch up on sleep, man. That Sunday night really messed me up. We went down to Tampa and we went to a concert. Of course, it's not on freaking Sunday night at a concert, but I ended up getting like 4 hours of sleep that night, and I've been trying to play catch up every day. So it happens. Could have been worse. I could have not gone to the concert, you know. So yeah, just too many things to do to add Historicon to the list. You know, who did I go see? We went to go see when they announced. I wanted to go see Sammy Hagar last year, and I didn't get a chance to. And when I found out that they were doing a Van Halen themed tour with Satriani playing all the Eddie Van Halen stuff, I'm like, oh, I got to see that, because it's like if anybody can get close, it would be him, and it was stupendous. It was really, really good. Um, and my brother My brother caught me going to a Maiden concert last year. Was it last year or the year before? One of those two. So I'm like, hey, I really want to go to this one. I think it was the year before. I really want to go to this one. So are you interested? Let's go. And then my daughter hopped on board too. So the three of us went down there, and it was superb. It was better than I thought it was going to be. Well, I thought it was going to be great, and it was better than that. And it almost got rained out. It almost got lightninged out. But everything worked out. Yeah, it was superb. Yeah, and I saw him like playing on like Howard Stern or something like that. I'm like, oh yeah, these guys still got it. And I never got a chance to see the original band. You know, when all that stuff was touring, I didn't have that kind of money. On the internet makes everything more accessible for everybody. Now, you might find out that like, how would you find out that somebody was touring 30 years ago? You got to like look in a newspaper. Or now you just, turn on the internet, and, you can follow whatever it is that you want to. So, but I learned something really valuable. And, it's silly that people do tours, that bands do tours in Florida in the summer. And then I started thinking about it. All right, they want to do it. Most tours are all over the United States, and they don't want to tour in New York when it's in January, because they can't, because of snow and stuff like that, right? So you got to do it in the summertime. And in summertime, it's hot as shit here. It was going to be like over 100, like at seven o'clock at night, and we got like a rainstorm that came out of nowhere and dropped the temperature like 30 degrees. It was crazy. The bad thing is it had lightning and they, you know, it started late. So, but it all worked out. But the valuable lesson is I'll never go to a concert. And this was not the issue here because this was kind of like a band shell. It was open, but it had a roof. Of course, if you know, we were inside the roof area, so that wasn't really an issue. But I would never go to a concert at a stadium that's completely open because you just don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen element wise, you know. Um, and So like one of the places that a lot of the bands go to is what used to be called the Citrus Bowl. I don't know what the hell it's called now. One band you always wanted to see. Yeah, there's some people that did. I filmed the whole thing in my own little because that's kind of what I do because I can always like listen to it later if I wanted to. But there's some people that had really close seats and filmed everything, and it was at the same concert, and they did a really good job. But yeah, it was pretty cool. However, there is one thing that surprised me, and that was the age group of everybody was about 10 years older than me. There weren't a lot of young people, and the women that were there were they partied a lot. They party a lot. They definitely. One band you always want to see. My brother got to see them. Plus, he got to do Monsters of Rock tour in Detroit. Always jealous of that one. Yeah, I haven't been to very many concerts, but um, you know that's something I can't do. My wife wouldn't do that. You know, but I got my brother to do that on my daughter really like I knew she was going to. I mean, she already knows all this. You know, she knows all almost all the songs, but she looked for a playlist and knew all the stuff and was singing along, and you know, we had a great time. Everybody behaved well. Had a couple people there that had way too many $14 beers. You know, they weren't going to go to work the next morning. Let's put it that way. Um, yeah, there was definitely there was some rough ladies. But concerts are good as long as you know people behave. And I think if you don't have the whole mosh pit thing, in other words, if you don't have whatever it's called, the general admission or whatever, if everybody has a chair, um, it's well behaved. You know, you're a child of the '90s. Well, how does that exactly work? Because technically, I like to say I'm from the '80s, but I was born in the '70s, but I don't really remember much of the '70s, thankfully, because my mama dressed me in the '70s. People wore some horrible stuff in the '70s. Horrible, horrible stuff. They wore some horrible stuff in the '80s too, but you know. Did your mama dress you? Is it the '70s? Yeah, yes, then yes. Or not maybe dressed me, but like that's what you're gonna wear. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I'm not wearing any cool clothes. Got to see Seven Dust. I don't know who Seven Dust is. STP, not the fuel additive. Corn, Nine Inch Nails. Okay. Creed. Have I seen Creed or not? I don't remember. I don't remember if I've seen Creed or not. Yeah, there's a band from St. Augustine that's kind of like Red Hot Chili Peppers. They're called Spider Monkey, and a buddy of mine used to go see them all the time. We saw them probably I don't know 6 times or whatever. You know, they're a small time band, but they're like I don't really like the Chili Peppers very much, but they're kind of that style, and they're really really good. And yeah, they I saw they were touring again. Like, man, those guys look old. Flares are going back at some point. Flares, what? Flare pants means my music influence and wheelhouse are bands from the '90s. Well, you're a little younger than I am, so that makes sense. Let's see. We're going to do some cracks here. We got some crack action happening here. Crack action. Just something else to do, you know? There's there's a huge disparity in ticket prices depending on where your seat is. I mean, like at this concert, it was like everything from like $5,000 for a seat to like $20. Like, yeah, I'm not, but I mean, unless somebody else buys a ticket for you, $4,000, like, yeah, no. Also saw Uncle Ted Agent Nugent. Okay, Cheap Trick. Okay. Um, wasn't that freaking girl playing with? She might still be playing with Alice Cooper. That guitarist from Australia or whatever. This starts with the O, whatever the hell her name is. She's an extremely good guitarist. Um, yeah, I think she was touring with him, but I think he changes bandmates and things like that from time to time. Not a huge fan, but a fun show. I love live music. The chick that played with Michael Jackson. Yeah, I said Ori something or never. She's an amazing guitarist. But that venue in Tampa was excellent, even though the name of it is like super long. It's like Mid Florida Credit Union South Amphitheater or something like that. I'm like, this is going to be some kind of hillbilly thing. Oh no, the place was. It was actually it was really nice. So, all right, where are we going to put the cracks here? Well, what a do one here that comes from this water pipe. Forgot you saw Rush at the Palace in Auburn Hills, Michigan. Best show I've ever been to. But did you see Rush in the front row? I did for 6 songs. And I wasn't a Rush fan. That doesn't mean I don't like them. I'm just not. I probably like them more now than I did back then, but those guys are so busy putting out all that sound, they can't be super animated. I mean, they got their hands full. Um, yeah, sitting in the front row, it's unbelievable. It's like something totally different. But you can't; those seats aren't affordable. Sometimes you can't buy them, and unless you're independently wealthy, like. All right, what are the cracks happen on this corner? Oh, there's a happy little crack that happened right here. Like I haven't seen enough cracked concrete today. And then we're going to do a brown wash on top of this, which will kind of help tie everything together. Okay, this side's good enough for that. It's good enough, and I keep adding things to it. I guess it's not good enough. And I was concerned with doing the brown wash over it that all this would just disappear, but no, it penetrates into the MDF, even though it's got a sealant on it and at least one coat of paint on it. I'm not going to add any cracks on this. I just don't know how it's going to turn out. So let's give it a brown wash and let's see where we go from there with it. What process did we use on bricks? Well, I painted everything black, and then we just dry brushed and just brought it up. It's the only color on the building that's actually what I would call a good quality paint. The rest of it's all craft paint. So the only thing I refuse to do, was just my style. I don't like a light color in a recess. So I just you could say that, oh well, you can't see the mortar. Well, it's all moldy. It needs to be power washed, right? Because I don't want to go in there and like give it like a light color. The idea of having a light color in a recess just even when you see it on a real building, it doesn't look right. It just so I just opted not to do that. You know, um, so let's give this a brown wash using the strong tone from Army Painter. And I believe we mixed it on top of this. Well, we didn't mix it. We just applied it on there and went from there. Can't use the other side because there's stuff on it. Stuff all over it. Do we have a brush that hasn't been violated yet? Yeah, let's use this one. A non-violated brush. What do you mean by that? Think about it. Okay, we're going to, let's just go ahead and do this. sidewalk by itself. Yeah, a long convention like Historicon's weird because it'll be like the first like you'll get there and like, oh man, I already played a game. It's Wednesday, like the convention didn't even start, and then Thursday goes back slow, and then like Friday and Saturday fly by. So Joe Coton went up there. He's like, hey, you want anything? I'm like, no, I don't really need anything. I didn't want him wasting his time looking for something. I think last year he went up and actually picked me up some KVs that were out of print. He said somebody had them. Like, I don't need any vehicles. I need to finish this stuff for this scenario. We got hundreds of vehicles, and I do mean hundreds of vehicles finished. Why are you making so many vehicles if your game is you don't have that many of them on the board? What about the people that build like models in 1/35th scale and never play a game with them and you just have them in a display case? What about them? You know, just something to do. I enjoy doing them. And then I'm going to go ahead and sit this. Scott, you haven't seen this, so stick around. I got my roadway. Because we'll have both things. Well, this is a built up area building. It's not the tenement style like that one that I have, but this is still for a legit town. Oh, you got to run. Okay, well, don't look at it then. So this is going to sit like so, and I'm going to stay in the inside of the garage in a little bit, but I want a contrast color. Okay, wait a second. All right. So this is going to sit like this. So this is just a piece of MDF, and we added some of just a smear of like the thinnest grade one, so it looks like asphalt. And then you're going to cover up part of it like this, and then of course it'll tie in with if you had another building. If you had another building, it sits up beside it, like say this one. Of course, we'd have them on the other side as well. All right, and then we got these loose bricks that we've been collecting because they're just for scatter. They don't mean anything. They just help tie everything in because you've got this much destruction. Some of these bricks went somewhere. So you could just take shit like this and go, yeah, we'll put a few here. You know, they get picked up after every battle. And that's what the bricks are for. And then when you do something and put like it looks the part. And from 4 feet away, looks pretty freaking good. And I'm going to so this asphaltic road is what goes through like the legit town, because the other side of the road is just like this. You guys probably won't see it based on where the camera is, but I've got this set of row houses. Let's flip it over like this. And I actually went on Google Maps and found out about how wide these streets are. Because there's like a town, there's a destroyed French city. I can move this around here. There's a destroyed French city, it has been untouched. So I went in there and measured it. Let's see if I can. I can't tell what you guys are seeing, but anyways, so this is let's see here. So this is the width of like the city. So I'm going to make another section that is going to taper from this roadway style. I haven't made it yet, and this is a lot of this I'm figuring out as I go. It's like, well, we need this piece. All right, let's make it. You don't have to worry about spending hours on the internet trying to find a purveyor of something. But if you've got, let me grab a little stretch of this stuff, a small section could be, you're going to have a part at the edge of town that's going to transfer from this type of roadway, the asphalt, to this roadway, okay? So I'm going to make a section that's going to go from this to this, and look like it's, blended and stuff. It could be a small section. It might only be, 2 or 3 inches long, but it'll tie in from one to the other. But this MDF stuff is amazing. First of all, it's cheap as hell. It doesn't warp and it's super thin. If I wanted to do a roadway that like maybe you could hide behind, yeah, I could go like, 1/4 inch or something like that, and then just bevel the edges. But this is about as thin as you can get, this 2 millimeter, and it's unobtrusive. So, and you've got the sidewalks that protrude a little bit higher than the street. But the area on the edges doesn't have the texture, because if it has the texture on it, this isn't going to be able to sit flush up against it like it is right there. You'll have a little bit of a gap. So anyways, we're just kind of figuring things out as we go. And the fact that I can pretty much make all this stuff, just one thing at a time. So, and then when we expand from this, we've got stuff to work on. Now, I've got one building here, my little cafe that's not destroyed. These are probably, well, first of all, I have all the hovel buildings that they make of this set. I think there's like one that I'm missing, and it's like a factory smokestack or something like that that's knocked down. But all of these are old school buildings in that they don't have floors, so you need the floor down there, because if somebody walks in and they're defending the windows, well, they can be there, and then you can, okay, when their turn's up, you close it back up. So anyways, just for maximum practicality. And then if you think that's complicated, wait till we get to these guys. These are Queens Hussars. This is a freaking tenement block. And not only is it 4 stories, with kind of like a basement, but there's individual partitions, and it'll end up looking great. But this weighs a metric ton. So if this falls on the ground, it'll shatter into a bunch of different pieces. So that's just kind of where we're going. So one thing at a time. Get yourself one of those handheld vacuum cleaners to clean the bricks up. I have one, but I don't want to throw them away. I just have to pick it up by hand. So, and we're not traveling with this. So this stays here. So there's also a shed garage type building you don't have yet. Okay. Looks excellent. It better look excellent, damn it. You people with the wargaming magazines, it's your fault. Yeah, it looks better in person than in photos. But this house, I'm blessed with this house where the lighting here is superb. I mean, you can't tell, but it's still great lighting. The guy put just LEDs everywhere. And, it's useful for somebody who has the nerdy hobby that I do. Anyhow, let's put this back. But that's what these 16,000 freaking bricks are for. So I'm going to lose a few, but I was a little disappointed when I got them in the color. They look very fake, But once I, gave them a little bit of a black wash, that's all it took, you know? Anyhow, that's why we're doing it. And if, hey, we can have a little le pâtisson, this is just some of my little frogs here. A lot of these are just out of print anymore. Some of them are SHQ, but a lot of these guys are, this one's SHQ. A lot of these guys are Battlefield. They don't make them anymore. So, anyhow. But it's nice that I don't have to buy this commercial stuff. So it's like, I need a piece that does this. Like, I'll make it. And it's easy enough to do. Once I figure out what was working for me. And a lot of it is just like analysis paralysis. Oh, I don't know how this is going to turn out. Well, how about just start painting and figure it out as you go? Like, I've only been doing this for a few decades. That's the biggest problem. It's like, I don't know how this is going to turn out, But these signs are not glued on there. They're using the, whatever this stuff is called, the white tack or whatever. So you can remove them if you need to. So you could probably do them in Germany, but we need to have them say something different. You could have something. Oh, I haven't put the bases on this guy yet. And some of you guys are like, why'd you put your vehicles on bases? Well, I need to put them on some of them. This one, I just hadn't gotten around to doing it. There's a lot of them. Armored cars I didn't do. Here's everybody's favorite armored car except that one guy. The Puma. So anyways, just plugging along one thing at a time. We'll get there. We'll get there. Finding it hard to find 20mm figures at the... Yeah, they're very hard. Luckily, I don't need to buy any more figures. I literally don't need to buy any more figures. I've got hundreds of figures. I've got about 35, 40 Germans painted. I just need to redo their bases. Yeah, even do civvy stuff. I need to put FFI stuff on it. Okay, now back to where we were. So we need to take. We were working on this. Let's leave this out. Yeah. So let's say I need to sweep this up. I'm just going to come in with a brush and just sweep it off. And eventually I'm going to lose a brick here and lose a brick there. It's just, another brick in the wall. But that's what they're for. Now, a couple of companies make like the piles of rubble, and honestly, that would probably look pretty good too, but you can't have these big piles of rubble everywhere. There's got to be like little stuff too. So the rubble paints up pretty well. So I'm kind of hooked on these destroyed buildings. It's kind of forgiving. When you do a destroyed building and you're painting the inside, like these are not really well made in some degrees. Like, let's take a look at this wall here. Like, what the hell happened here? It's like thick and like, hey, how much spackle should we use? All of it, But because it's destroyed, you can kind of come up with a backstory of, what happened. It's almost like a radioactive type growth there. The Toxic Avenger has a house. All right, I'm gonna take a little boys. Got to go to the little boys' room, and I'll be right back. And I actually don't know how to pause this thing. Maybe turn the mic off like this. Okay, so let's dress up this a little bit on the inside. I'm gonna make some coffee first. Look at that little brown wash. All it did was to do that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this. I have a tone that's not the same one, soft tone, and I'm gonna drop that over the inside and see exactly how that looks. And but I'm gonna make another cup of coffee here. So we can be up all night. My wife's away for the weekend, so there's nobody who said, you can't have another cup of coffee this late because you'll be tossing and turning all night. It'll just be me. Me and those whores that were dropped off for the toxic. How does that story go? The toxic waste. Trade the whores for toxic waste. Or trade the toxic waste for whores. Yeah, something like that. The things you hear. All right, I'm going to do a couple things. I need something else that's not this. So let me flip this upside down. We did some green here. It's shouldn't reanimate this. So we're going to put some soft tone, which I don't think it's that much different. So this might actually not work. And I like using this small, more controlled. A shed garage type thing I don't have yet. Yeah, make sure you keep track. Hey, you don't have this yet. There's just so much 3D printed stuff out there that's available. And we haven't even gotten to Russia. All right, where's my super readers? It's not those. It's not those. They're over here. Now let's see how much different this is, if any. It's like the same. Well, I gotta tint this a little bit. So I'm gonna go and do everything with that color, and then I'm gonna come in with a little bit darker, maybe a little bit of the black, and come in and do this just so it stands out a little bit. Maybe that's what I should do with the floor, since it's all like a drive-in type thing. All right, let's do that. Nolan oil, I think, is a little extreme. I think Nolan oil is a little extreme. What do we have with this? This is just dirty water. What's this look like when I do this? That works. Oh yeah, baby. Okay, so I wanted you guys to see with the bricks, you're like, man, it looks like it's missing something. Yes, it's missing random piles of stuff. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. All right, so we're going to set this off to the side, let this one dry, bring another one out. I got another one in me. You guys gonna stick around? Do I need to leave and go play some what's that? World of Warships? That cheesy ass game. Hey, it keeps me from building ships. I don't need to be diluted, my attention to be diluted anymore. Yeah, so here we've got this right here. This is the butcher shop. That's what they tell me this means. Boucherie. I guess it never rained. No. Oh. Never made the coffee. Come on. Work your magic. One of those little cup things. Makes a cup of coffee at a time. Which I don't really drink that much, but I want to get stuff accomplished. Not unaccomplished things. Yeah, 20 millimeter figures are really hard to find. Now, if you go somewhere and somebody's selling them, they're usually really thirsty to get rid of them. So that benefits you, but I just think it's the perfect scale. You know, I don't have an affinity for 28 millimeter. When I started doing this, I never played Warhammer. So I don't have well, that's the scale I'm used to problem. That really didn't apply to me. And way back when, there just wasn't much World War II stuff in 28 millimeter. There is now, but 30 years ago there wasn't. You know, I think that some of the first ones that were like in 28 millimeter / 25 was the West Wind metal stuff. West Wind was doing some World War II stuff, but I think their stuff is actually 25. So, yeah. So we're going to go over this again with a marker. Make that pop a little bit. Let's grab our coffee, put some ice on it, and go over it with a marker, and then start working on magic. Well, you just don't want to make a cup of coffee, do you? Come on. There it is. just black coffee. Oh, now nobody's on. Or maybe it's not true and there is somebody on. We'll stay on here a little bit. It's kind of hard to get motivated to do this when there's nobody listening. At least nobody listening live. So, if you want me to keep going, let me know. Well, we did start earlier than normal. Normally, I'm not even on it, even at this time. So everything except these two buildings are mostly done. So once this is complete, we need to do the road sections that taper down from the country road to this road, and then finish up that farmhouse. And then we can start working on the actual board itself, which I'm not sure what I'm going to do. And it's going to be a little difficult to do because I don't have a table right now. I plan on getting 3 8x, whatever they come in, 30. I think they're 30. So we can get almost an 8-foot by 8-foot playing surface. And it's kind of hard to make a 8x8 cloth if you don't have an 8x8 table to sit it on. But once we get everything done other than the cloth, I'm pretty comfortable going and getting the tables. I just didn't want to get them ahead of time and then peter out. Seam swamp with 28 millimeter out there. I would go 15 millimeter starting over. I wouldn't, yeah. The problem is the 15 millimeter vehicles just they don't look great, you know? Table in that monster, my garage is it's epically huge. It really is. And maybe it's because it's so damn tall. I mean, you could fit almost a sailboat in there. It's so tall, I'm scared to go into my attic. I failed a morale check going into the attic. The guy up there that we bought the house from, the house is only 2 years old. And we're really blessed we were able to move in here and with the conditions that worked out, taking over his mortgage. And he said, yeah, I got a winch and stuff up there to take up the bins for Christmas. I'm like, all right, let me go check it out. So I got my Warner ladder. I don't know what the hell height it is. And I'm like, this isn't tall enough. So we went and bought one of those extendable ladders. And the problem is the opening for the attic is not anywhere near the wall. Okay, so like if it's near a wall, you at least have a wall to brace yourself against. And I'm not necessarily scared of heights, but I'm not doing that again. I'm not. I didn't come here to get freaking hurt. And you're up on that ladder, it feels like you're 30 feet in the freaking air. So that's the only downside. But man, he's got LEDs out there. The lighting in the garage is incredible. It's absolutely incredible. So now I do have a counter. The island that has no hole. There's no hole in the island for the sink. We have an island with no sink, and the island measures 42 inches by 90, 80, something like that. It's pretty freaking big in and of itself. So But I'm in everybody's way there. Well, not today, but since we're playing an actual scale, and by that I mean is 1 centimeter equals a meter, you need a big space. You need a big space. Not for the infantry per se, but if you got vehicles moving around, they need some room to move around in. So that they have options. I just don't want. I don't want to go ahead and get the table ahead of time and then peter out. I mean, once I get all this stuff done, yeah, there's no reason not to get the table. It's like I didn't build all this shit not to play the game. And like I said, the good news about this game is because it's not a tournament. If something's fucked up in it, I don't like it. I'm changing it. You know, if something doesn't work, there's no reason to keep perpetrating a problem. Now this is the door to the outside, which actually won't be visible. And this won't be visible either. But there's a window here, a window there. This is the opening for the door. And then there's a window here. Okay, and on this side of the building, window here. You know, I can't show you guys because I'm using the phone as the camera. Normally I'd be filming with my computer. But there's a 3D printer, I forget who the heck it is. They make a little destroyed French vehicle with a village with like piles of rubble. I totally see getting that again. You know, just next thing you know, you got 20 buildings or something like that. Just for atmosphere, you know. But I'm not doing teddy bear fur. I don't want that kind of a mess. Wouldn't have to worry about packing everything up in the garage. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it set up, but I don't think I'm gonna store any of this stuff in the garage. My garage is also insulated, so it's about 20 degrees cooler than it is outside. So when it's like 90 outside, the garage is 70. It's amazing. I mean, this guy did a really good job with it. He was a forward thinker when he had this house built. Definitely a forward thinker. Okay, so we're ready to do the tileage. So we'll leave this on here for that. Let's get Nuln Oil out here and do some initial tilings. Oh, you know what? I actually like doing I actually like the dry brush after the tile lines are on, so I'm going to leave that alone. We're going to do it that way. Like the first one I did, I did the dry brushing, then put the tile things on. I actually liked it the other way better. Hey, sometimes when you don't follow directions, you find a better way. You too can learn a lot from a dummy. All right, so we got the corner here. And then we're going to try to make these as square as we can. Doesn't have to be perfect. It's not like they're slabs. They poured this and then put the dividers in between them, so. That's how they built this French town. And we definitely want this going to the corner as well. And a square there. And a square there. Square there. A square. A square. A square. Now we need to get I need to fit 3 in here. Yeah, if one's smaller, one's smaller. We'll split the difference between these two. There we go. Pugwash, you live near, I take it you have pugs. You live in Pennsylvania, don't you? If I remember correctly. You live near Historicon. Hope I didn't just make that up. No, you're in London. Not even close. Wow, man. Staying up late for me or staying up early. Thank you. But you do have pugs. Did I get that part right? Yeah, definitely not going to run this at a show. Can you imagine like dealing with somebody that's going to ham fist my stuff? Like, no, I didn't do all this trouble just to be tortured by some troll, you know? And yeah, I'm going to film it. I'm going to do a solo game before I present it to everything, just to see how it works. Yeah, so I was all excited about War Games Soldiers and Strategy coming up with their last episode with a issue 131. Like those of us that buy them individually can't get it for yet. So, well, I don't need to subscribe to it. I don't want to commit to, there might be an episode, there might be a series on like American Civil War that I certainly don't want to pay for that one. Nope, no dogs. The name's just a 70s cartoon character. Pugwash? Maybe that cartoon didn't make it to the States, or maybe I just don't remember it. I certainly watched cartoons in the 70s. 90s is when I didn't watch cartoons. I'm already too old for. I actually my transition in the 80s, in the mid 80s, went from watching cartoons on Saturday morning to, hey mom, can you take me to the hobby store where they're playing war games? That was basically transition. So anything that happened in that time period in the transition, I didn't watch on TV. Because I was wargaming on Saturday morning. Much better use of time than just watching television. But I don't watch any of those cartoon shows now. The art's terrible. I know it's not about the art. Well, it should be. Like, if I can draw better than those cartoonists, then, it's not a very good quality show. I don't know. I know I'm asking too much. All right. Where are we going to put the cracks here? So you and I are the only people that I know that has no animals. I don't have any animals either. Nor do I have a need for them. Although as I've gotten older, I've appreciated dogs more. I still don't want one. We had elderly grandparents that lived with us when I was growing up, and they kept us from being able to do things because we had to watch them. So I certainly don't want something like, hey, we got to travel. Oh wait, somebody's got to stay with the dog. Like, nope. Did you just compare your grandmother to a dog? Well, not really, but I know several people that have many pets, and it's always ones that have also many kids. Like the only people who should have like multiple animals, the only not should have. The only thing would make sense if you had multiple animals would be like you lived alone. Like you need entertainment. Whereas I lived alone for many years and never had a need to have a pet. But I actually enjoy the silence. Helps you think. Well, that's a noisy ass chair. It's probably because it's jacked all the way to the top. So we'll be back on tomorrow morning, for sure, in about 10 hours or so. We'll be back on. You're you're painting now and you're already talking about your next paint session. Well, I do that all the time. I'll go out to eat at a restaurant and we'll talk about the next meal. And what can I say? I'm a foodie. I was reading something about a year ago, and maybe it was a little bit more than a year ago. And this was a war gamer. I'm pretty sure it was somebody in England, in the UK, and they were older than I was. Which most war gamers are about most historical war gamers are about 10 years older than I am, about a decade. And they were talking about playing their first World War II game, and I'm like, what? I grew up on that. I mean, World War II is my, that's the standard. I never played Ancients anything or with any Romans until I played DBA in 2004. I never played Romans before. Never played medieval stuff. Never played Ancients. I mean, it was always World War II. World War II, World War One ships. World War II ships, World War One ships, World War II land. I mean, it's kind of the gold standard as far as I'm concerned. The perfect blend of technology and brute force. Not too much technology and not too much brute force. And even then, there's some stuff that's difficult to do. It's hard to do carrier operations. It's hard to do air to air combat. You got to stylize things a lot. It's kind of the gold standard. I grew up watching Guns and Avro and stuff like that as a kid. I'm like, I didn't even grow up with World War II as a U.S. centric. Like I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, America won World War II by itself. I'm not really interested in playing Americans. I mean, I'm like an American every day. I'm blessed. I don't have a problem being American. I'm just like I'd like to role play a little bit. I'd like to do some silly over the top accents. You can't do that if you're playing Americans. Like you're gonna sound like this. It just I get to be an American every day. But I've certainly played with folks that are like, I'm not into that. Why? Because there's no Americans on the table. Like they needed to have like Americans so they could relate. Like, come on, man. Have you seen the ships Yorkshire Gamer built? They're pretty amazing. Yes, they're salivatingly good. You know what's really good about them? The water effects, the splashes on the side of the ship. And I know he does it really basic. The problem is that can you imagine if I had that game, the kind of detail, and I am a I am a rivet counter. I am a ship rivet counter. There's like only one rule set that I would play, and that's Sea Creek, because it has the kind of, hit location, penetration kind of stuff, you know, um, that kind of detail. But I don't know what rule set he's doing, but I'm sure the game is compressed severely. Um, when we used to play Sea Creek, you can't do the battle. I know he's building stuff for Battle of Narvik. You can't do Narvik. You can't do Narvik in Sea Creek because at an inch equals 500 yards, the fjord's only like 2 inches wide or something like that. So it's like you fire torpedoes, you can't miss. You know, yeah, Narvik Fjord's pretty long, but I think it's only like, Sable Island is like this big. Sable Island is like 6 inches around. So not skill with ships, skill the game scale. So yeah, he's probably playing something really yeah, they look salivatingly good. All those I love Brit destroyers. British destroyers are World War II. I got a soft spot for the Royal Navy, the Second World War. In the First World War, I'm not a big fan of the Royal Navy. I like the German ships in the First World War, but the Second World War, the British ships are my favorite because they got so much personality. Brits got the best names for their ships. Western approaches. What's not to like about Western approaches? Color schemes. They just look amazing. Semtex and Courtesine and all those different settings. I mean, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan. Big fan. And they're more individually. In World War One, they've got these ship classes that have usually four ships in the class. If you were talking about the big ships, and there's no paint schemes; they're all painted gray. And I mean, I guess the German ones were the same way too. But the German World War One ships look cooler. Seydlitz is just a sexy, wicked looking beast. But I love the British destroyers. I always love playing them. Always love playing them. They got so much personality, and they just did so much stuff that just takes like balls of steel and got away with it. I love the Mediterranean stuff. You got stuff like Force K, and Force K's got like two old shitty. They're not that old, but they're shitty light cruisers. And like 2 to 4 destroyers, and they just did all kinds of crazy hell with those ships, and they're definitely substandard ships. Compared to the Italian ships are really good, but even though they couldn't hit the broadside of a barn, I posed that question the other day. We played a lot of stuff in the Mediterranean. I don't think the 15-inch guns on Littorio and Vittorio Veneto ever hit a fucking thing other than the water. That's the only thing those 15-inch guns ever hit was water. So if they fired them, they're going to hit the water. I don't think they hit another ship. It had to do with, the guns maybe were good, but the shells were, subpar. I don't think they hit a fucking thing with them. Ever. I mean, it's a good thing, I don't want, it's going to only hit the good guys. But yeah, his ships look amazing. They look really, really good. They look really, really good. And there's so many ships of the Royal Navy in the Second World War that I really have a soft spot for. I've had them in miniature. I really like the way I painted them. I like the places, the battles that they were in. Sheffield and Rodney and shit. Repulse. Repulse is a beautiful ship. I don't care that there's better ships than that. And Renown. I like Renown too. With Somerville, cussing as he's going, blowing people away and cussing. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. And the British carriers are the best looking carriers. Not that I'm a huge fan of carriers. Actually, I did many battles you could use Eagle, because Eagle doesn't have a big complement aircraft that can really unbalance things. So, and she's slow. So, got to be careful which way you're launching planes or you start taking shell fire. But that's the first World War II thing I really got into was ships. And I got that from my dad. My dad was always into ships and warships and all that kind of stuff. He didn't war game, but he put that bug in my ear. And as soon as I found out, you mean you could war game this stuff? I'm like, holy shit, yeah. Sign me up. And the rest is just, well, history. Yeah, but I've never been one of those that I build American stuff that I have more American stuff now than I ever have. It's only because what I like the American tanks because they're kind of boring looking, but you don't have to make them boring looking. So it's kind of like as a challenge to make them look interesting. And the Sherman's kind of grown on me. I mean, it's not an attractive vehicle, but you know, it's cute with its little round turret. And I'm sorry, cute doesn't win wars, but it does make you paint more things. You know? Yeah, so I'm not your typical American that's like, well, we couldn't have won without America. We're like, well, if Britain wouldn't have held out until American forces came over there to land, it would have been a really tough proposition to do a Normandy invasion without having Britain to stage from. So and yeah, the big war was in Russia, but they're not the fucking good guys. And the Germans aren't the defenders of Europe either. Never gonna forget that. Some dickhead that put that on there. Pictures of some Wehrmacht tanks, and they were like, "Oh, the defenders of Europe." Hopefully, the guy was just being a fucking troll. You can't start a war, murder a bunch of people for no good reason, and then you're the defender. Bullshit. I saw somebody's comment in one of the things. I think it was on the war case. When did Germans all Germans become Nazis? I tell you what. As time went on, I would have agreed with that person a long time ago. Okay, but as time goes on, I'm not very sympathetic to the Germans. I get it; they had to like do their duty and stuff like that, but it's a horrible fucking regime. I mean, they had cool tanks, they had the best uniforms. Everything else about them sucked. I mean, I think we have too much government now. I mean, masters of propaganda, no doubt about it. They had cool artwork and things, but a horrible regime. But they had cool tanks. I paint their stuff, but they're not the good guys. Sorry. And there's a war. Everybody does war atrocities, but the defenders of Europe, no. I'm not very sympathetic to them. Of course, I'm not very sympathetic to the Russians either. Quite like the Shermans, but the Germans had more interesting tanks. They did, and the problem is that um, they used their tanks, maybe not the same models, for 6 years. So you're going to see a variation of different things, and the German stuff I'm going to say this: almost everybody has good-looking tanks. Okay, there's exceptions that this vehicle is ugly and this vehicle is something else. Like the Soviet tanks, I'd say almost all of the Soviet tanks are attractive in some way or another. I like them all. There's very few vehicles that I would say are really unattractive in the Second World War. Okay, two of the ones that I think are unattractive I have, and they're both just happen to be German. This is one of them. This particular martyr is just ugly as fuck. There's just no other way to say about it. Um, this is the Martyr 2 that's on the Panzer 2 chassis. It's the Panzer 2D chassis. With the Soviet gun that's reformulated, but it's an ugly vehicle. It's slab-sided, ugly ass thing. And much uglier than that one is this thing. Great day, this thing is ugly. Now, I put a magnet in it so we can, hey, look, we can turn this thing all the way around, you know? So, Shermans, I don't think are ugly. I don't think Shermans are ugly or half tracks are ugly. Or the ugliest U.S. vehicle I can think of is that damn duck truck. That thing is ugly as sin. That's probably one of the ugliest vehicles of the Second World War. Is that damn duck truck. I don't care how good it was in real life. All the Soviet tanks I have, they're all attractive. T-35s, T-28s, T-26s, they all have a charm. You know, I think they're attractive looking vehicles. BTs are really attractive. They might be a piece of shit, but they're really attractive vehicles. So I'd say most vehicles are attractive. British have a knack for taking an American kit, painting it up, and making it look better. Almost everything that's in British hands looks better than the American version of it. Almost everything. Kitty Hawk looks better than a P40. P40 is not. That's a bad example. I think P40s are attractive, anyways. But the Shermans in the desert. Oh, the Shermans in the desert is just beautiful. You know, I love the British stuff in the desert. Really, really cool. And by British, I mean Commonwealth too. I have a habit of that. Well, like the Shermans. What was the second one I had there? That's that damn RSO pack vehicle. So it's basically a tracked truck that has the cab removed, and it has a Pack 40, a 75 millimeter on the back. It's got these slab side. It's ugly as shit. They only made about 100 of them or something like that. They all used them in the Eastern Front. It's just something I ended up picking up in an eBay sale with something else. I don't like German tanks like these that are early war that don't have a turret, the turret box in the back. They look weird. They didn't start coming out until, Russia. I think that the war in Africa really sped up. I have a sneaky suspicion that the war in Africa really sped up their development. Never seen them before. Yeah, you didn't miss anything. They're ugly as shit. Oh, I'm sure somebody freaking likes it. The duck truck is just ugly as sin. I'll get one eventually. And I can point it out. See this ugly fucker? But most World War II vehicles, I would say, are attractive. In one way or another. T-34 is a very attractive looking tank. It's hell to be inside of one. And that's the one thing that I'll say about the Soviets. Other than the Japanese, I would say the Japanese would probably be the worst. But the Soviets would be a really bad. You are better off being a German soldier. Well, if you're looking at from conditions than a Soviet soldier. The Soviet leadership didn't give a fuck about you and didn't care if you died or whatever. I mean, there's some of that in the Germans as well, but not like the Soviets. I mean, like, it got better as the war progressed, but still, they didn't give a shit about you. But I always liked the German Russian stuff. It's like, which bad guy do you want to be? I won't do Shermans, Valentines, Matildas, Churchills, Stuarts, any of that stuff in Soviet service. I just won't do it. First of all, the Soviets made enough of their own stuff that's unique. I don't need to go and take a perfectly good Matilda and paint it up like, for the commies. They can use their own shit. Should do a showcase video of the vehicles you've built. You make a not man. I got a lot of them. I got a lot. I got a lot. I got too many. Let's do a quick once over. See if this comes over okay. And this is only all done in like a year. Yeah. So here is. These are the yellow bad guys. There and there. And then here's the gray ones, which I prefer my Germans in gray, but it depends on the period that you're doing. You can't always just, I mean, I guess you could paint them however you want to, but I won't allow myself to do that. And then here's the Soviets. More Soviets, the Soviet heavies. And Soviet lights. I actually have more Soviets than Germans, as I should. I had a shitload more. I got like 20 more T-34s to do. I got them from an estate sale. I picked up like 35 T-34s. These are all Skytrex ones, so they're 176 scale, which I prefer 172nd, but I don't mind them at $2 a piece. Like, okay, we'll go with the smaller ones. And, so I won't buy any 172nd scale T-34s because I'd rather not, even though I don't have a problem mixing 72nd and 76 together, I'd rather not be on the same vehicle, if you know what I'm saying. So, and then the Amerikaners are up here. A lot of these are die-cast vehicles repainted. And here's the odds and ends up here. Well, my Brits are done, but this is the Brits for the scenario. The scenario is going to be Brits. I got a A13. It's a 3D print. That elephant back there, which is actually a Ferdinand, is a Dragon Models one. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I'm probably going to repaint it, but it looks pretty decent. Here's my first German vehicle for the desert. Old Panzer I. We're going to get there. My German vehicles for the desert are all going to be in Panzer Gray, and then we're going to weather them like this one. Oh, actually, if I get pretty close, that looks pretty decent on my phone. It's just going to be weathered like that. So there's going to be like an undercoat of gray. Hets are going to hets. So... yeah, these are old Skytrex things. They paid up pretty well. Anyhow. Yeah, when I started doing these, I started not doing the Germans. It's real easy to do. Everybody's freaking doing German shit. Like, you know what? The Germans they have cool kit, but they got to fight other people, You can't just have German stuff. It also sends the wrong message if all you do is buy German shit. Makes you wonder, How was that quick showcase? I don't want to make a video on my showcase. That's going to take me away from finishing this project. And I distract real easy, in case you couldn't tell. But I love talking about the stuff that I've done. I love talking about, what methods work for me, may not work for you. I'm not trying to convert anybody. If you're perfectly happy doing 15 millimeter or 28 millimeter, go right ahead. Just don't convert me. Don't be knocking on my door like a Jehovah's Witness. Hey, you need to do 10 millimeter. You need to go fly a kite up your ass. So I'm the one guy on this side of the pond that does 20 millimeter. There's a few of us. But, when I started, this was the scale. And actually, what sold me was the figures by Dave Alsop's. Dave Alsop's Combat Miniatures. These guys right here. They are still, in my opinion, the best 20 millimeter figures out there. They're fucking amazing. The only gripe I have about them is that they're old enough that they don't have the newer, more pure lead. So I'm concerned that at some point some of the stuff's going to break on them. But I mean, there's AB figures. These are the best figures out there for me. There's nothing better than them. They're amazing. So thinking a curse kit, yeah, I can't use more than like 5 vehicles at a time. It's just for variety. I just have them for variety. That's all. And I had a lot of these, but Shit, I bought a lot more. It's just been really. It's been. It's been nice. It's been. There's so much World War II stuff out there now that wasn't available, and I'm talking about information that wasn't available 20 years ago. So the one true war and the one true scale. So yeah, I didn't do World War II stuff for 18 years. I did all the ancient stuff, and I don't regret it. I learned a lot of freaking history that I never would have learned had I not played DBA. Never would have learned that. Yeah, I learned a lot of like tactical history. Okay, because I took like Western Civ and everything for all my electives in college, so I've always liked history. But it's like I wouldn't have been able to tell you like, what's the makeup of Alexander's army versus Caesar's army. Like I wouldn't have been able to know those kind of tactical details that you wouldn't have known in a history book. So all right, cracks. Krakatoa. All right. I think that's good for now. Let's go ahead and give this a brown wash of strong tone. Let's see, can I flip this over and not cause any problems? I think so. Have you got the seating down to do before a game? I've got these buildings to do because there's a town in it. I've already done the trees. I'll show this to you because I don't think you've been on when I did the trees. So I have these woodland scenics trees. I figure you're familiar with woodland scenics trees. I've had them for 30 freaking years. And they have these annoying bases that you always see. And, like, I'm tired of seeing the damn bases. Like, they bug the hell out of me. So I brainstormed and brainstormed. And, I added some dry brush into these trees and dry brush into the trunks. So I cut off the bottom, put a little magnet on them, and they're going to go on. Where did that go? I wanted them on something metallic that fits underneath the cloth. So I'm going to have the cloth. I won't pull it out here because I'm really sidetracked myself. And this will sit underneath there, and then they stand up. And you don't have that annoying freaking trunk to look at. There's a sheet in between them that's strong enough to go through them. And then we'll have sprinkles to do the outside of where the tree line is, because they aren't individual trees, but I got like 30 of them, and I've taken some photos of them up close, and it works exactly what I wanted it to look like. So How cool is that? Yeah. Well, hopefully that's another reason I like doing this show. Maybe I'll open up pores in your brains and we can figure shit out together. You don't have to do it my way, but sometimes you just have to think about things like, okay, how can I deal with these damn trees without having those stupid bases? Because you get to see the base, they're top heavy, so they fall over on you. And it's all about I want to play a game. I want to play a game that looks like this shit. Like you blokes across the pond have. I want my game to look like this. I can do it. I've got to stay true. I can't be hopping all over the place and doing a bunch of stuff. You know? These games, what's this guy's name? Joe Bilton. He's got these beautiful, see, I can do that shit. Especially if he's giving me ideas on how to do it. I'm like, I just have to stay, I just have to stick with it. So we're getting there. We'll get there, and hopefully we'll excite people and motivate folks along the way the same way I've been motivated and excited by other things that I've seen. It's my way of kind of giving back, So I'm just trying to stay really close on topic so I don't get a lot of different things done and nothing accomplished. It's kind of like when you're working on a DBA army. You got to start with one army. You can't work on little bits of different ones or you don't have anything to show for it. You got to stay on track. Yep. Well, we'll see how we have the battlefield out, and I'll show you. I'm not one of those guys like, I don't want people to see the magic. Like, I do. Because, the worst thing is you get people discouraged. Like, oh, man. I don't want people like I've heard, the Warhammer is bad because it shows these beautiful painted miniatures, and they are very beautifully painted. And then they're like, they can't, they can't compete with that. I'm like, I see stuff that looks better that I like better than the stuff that I've made. It's motivated me to turn it up more, to improve. It's just a trick. It takes time. There are no shortcuts to stuff. I'm a pretty slow painter, and the stuff that I like better than my own stuff, those guys are spending even more time doing it than I am, and I'm a slow painter. But we're getting there. In the next scenario that I have, I can use some of the stuff that's already built in it. I don't have to build everything from scratch. It'll just work with each other. The trees work for Russia. They don't work too good for the desert. Obviously. Don't think he's been doing it long either. You talking about Joe Bilton? Well, I don't know anything about him other than I've seen his stuff all the time. But, I see stuff and I'm like, all right. I was trying to dissect some of the pictures. Like, okay, how do I build this Stalingrad terrain? And if you look at it, it's like, there's loose stuff everywhere. So there's a guy who puts on Sword in the Flame games here in Florida all the time. And he uses scatter terrain. By scatter terrain, I don't mean like, here's this outhouse and here's this over there. It's just like literally like piles of shit, that is just loose. And it looks really good. And I'm like, I got to do something like that so that it fills the it fills the canvas with things that are interesting to look at. And bricks so far is a hit. We're going to grab some talus as well. I don't want to just grab rocks and shit from outside. I live in Florida. All we have is fucking sand. So that's not very useful. And yeah, we'll get there. We're on the right track. We're definitely on the right track. We're getting a lot of things accomplished. I'm happy with how they're turning out, and we will get there eventually. But I can't just start, okay, we're going to do some desert stuff, and we'll do some desert terrain, and we'll come back to Normandy with the hedgerows. Like I've got some hedgerows made from 30 years ago. They look okay. I think they need to be doctored up, and then we'll really make them shine. But I can't start working on everything at once, or I won't finish anything, and then I'll get discouraged. Like the worst thing for my personality is to buy a ton of stuff and not know what to do next. Because what invariably happens is I'll just go move to something different, and I don't want that to happen. I don't want that to happen. So I'm keeping myself on a really short leash. I know what kind of makes me tick and what works for me. And that's what we're going to try to strive to stay on task for. So, I could be playing weekly with Mitch, but it'd be a pain in the butt. And every time I play, I move farther away from getting this accomplished. So that's not going to work for me, you know. All right, now we got some areas back here that we need to cover in black, which is predominantly this and this. Although I may just use a dark brown instead, but let's go with the black. Because this is an area that you're not going to place a figure here. Because if a figure is here, here's the doorway. If a figure is there, they're actually going to be on this piece of terrain because there's a terrain to sit on top of it. So you're never going to use this section for that purpose. You need it for this interior part. Yeah, I freaking love Dave Alsop's figures. His sculpting is incredible. We'll see if we can't knock this out tonight. And that way we have work on tomorrow. Invariably, I'm going to have to tinker with these some a little bit, but I'll at least be able to put them all out there and see exactly what it is that you need. Like I set these things up and I'm like, we need some kind of scatter terrain. We can't have these little piles of rubble and stuff and not have any rubble in the street. So I'm like, all right, let's see who makes this, that, or the other. And not buy everything at once, but like wait until you need something. Like I need something that fits this bill, and then go and get that, and then work with that stuff. But I love seeing stuff online that is just super motivating, even if it's something you're not interested in. And the best example I can think of is I'm trying to think what that guy's name is. Is it Barry Hilton? The guy that does the sailing ships? His stuff that he has posted on that what's it called? His group is salivatingly good looking. I am not into sailing ships. And it is just like, put me in, coach. I want to play that game. His stuff is amazing. Somebody like, some people would say, oh, you're posting pictures of your stuff to brag. No, I'm posting stuff on there so I can stay on track and hopefully motivate people that, hey, you too can have something that's really cool looking if you just stick to it. Just the way I've used all these like pro level folks doing stuff. What's his name? It's some 7 Years War sounding thing. Anyways, his stuff is amazing. And again, it's a period I'm not interested in. I don't care about Anglo-Dutch wars. And I'm not afraid about talking about stuff that I really like. You know, I've gotten into automobiles late in life. And if you go to a car show, there's just half the people are just assholes. They're like somehow they like lose part of their manhood if they say something nice about something else that someone else has. Like, why can't you say like a nice word about something? It's not like, oh, you have it. It must be a piece of shit. You know, mine's better than you. Like, look, you need to. That's not very social. And you know, that's not necessarily a car thing. That's a person problem. That person is that same way every time they interact with people. Like, oh, you got one of those? I got four, and they're a piece of shit. Like, well, why do you have four of them if they're a piece of shit? You know, they were always trying to outdo somebody else instead of like, you know, be positive, man. There's no reason to have that kind of negativity. I guess I have enough negativity in my job. I don't need to do it in my hobby. If I'm doing negativity in my hobby, then I need to find another hobby. Boy, this brush of unusual size really saves some time. This is just crappy ass craft paint. League of Augsburg. That's what it is. That's what his website is called. League of Augsburg, or that's like this his gaming group or something like that. I think he's in Scotland or something like that. Yeah, I love it. I love his ships. Okay, let's see how this fits the bill. Let's move this little guy. We don't want to get paint on him and have to repair something. Okay, that's going to be visible. Well, it's totally in the wrong place too. How the fuck did that happen? Okay, well, that's irrelevant then. Really only need it for this center area where the closet fits in there. There's a crawl space or something underneath the stairs. I've decided to make that way now. That's how that's going to look for now. Got to hit the sack, Tony. Take care. We'll search out your tree video. Yeah, it's a couple times ago. I just kind of I brainstormed and was like, okay, what could work? Like I can't give up. Like I gotta use trees. I already have 30 of these trees, and I gotta be able to use them without the bases, and still have the flexibility, you know. And the thing is I really wanted solid. I didn't want the washers, but if they were solid pieces of metal, because of the size of the trees, they really can't get any closer to each other than the edges. So it doesn't really matter if the center was solid or not. If you put a tree in the center of it, now you can't put any trees around it. So the fact that they're donuts, so to speak, actually doesn't matter, you know. So okay, well, you're gonna hit the sack, then I'm gonna hit the sack too. Let's just I gotta wait for some stuff to dry out. But thank you all that came by and we entertained each other. And we'll see you guys in the morning in about 9 or 10 hours or so. All right, folks, have a good evening. Happy Friday. See you later, folks. Bye-bye.